We're just getting started here for the Power BI user group for Chicago and Milwaukee. With us, we have a guest with us, a Bernat with us, who's going to be helping us go through. I'm trying to say it right. Gonna go through some really amazing tutorials today around calculation groups. Tommy, welcome. Tommy,
Hello, yeah. So I'm happy to be here for the Chicago Power BI user group. Mike, Bernat, thank you so much for joining. We missed our April one.
yes, we
Well,
did.
I mean, technically it was like March 30th, so it was like kind of in between.
Close.
But we decided like let's take a break and then go international.
I
That's
like it.
exactly what we did today. So Bernat, very nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So
We're a
glad to be
huge fan
here.
of a lot of your content. You do a great job. Your blog is very well articulated. You've done a ton of work around calculation groups, so we're super excited to get in and have you teach us some more about calculation groups. But before we jump in there, Tommy's got a couple slides, and then we'll transition over to you and do some more presentation stuff. So Tommy, take it away.
So we just have some housekeeping items for the Chicago user group. Just want to go over a few things for those who are in Chicago. Great to have you back again. For those who are not, why don't you join us? So I wanted to give some updates because I think there's definitely some Power BI updates that deserve to be talked about. And we're going to do just a quick demo of that if you've not seen it yet. And then we'll jump right into the main session. So the main thing right now is first, if you have not heard about Microsoft Build next week, make sure to register and join. It is completely free to join. According to Microsoft, they have the biggest announcement in the last 3 years in Power BI. They're shipping something that they said is the biggest thing they've shipped in Power BI for the last 3 years. It starts on Tuesday of next week. So make sure to join. I think there's going to be some game-changing announcement. The next major announcement that's actually come out that's already available is called my field parameters, which goes perfectly well with today. And let's just kind of go what they are. So I'm going to bring up my desktop here. And previously, before when we had when we had any way to show multiple measures, we had to create a switch statement or calculation groups. But what if I want to do this quickly or really combine measures and fields? So let's just do both super quickly and just see how easy it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive right in. I'm going to go into my new parameters. I'm going to do this new option called fields. It's going to bring up this interface. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just choose some of my main measures here. So I'm going to go here. Let's say sales. I'm going to say cost. We'll say profit. And let's do units. So we'll just call this my metrics. So this is already where you would think, okay, this is exactly like our switch statement, right? It's going to load it. We'll have my fields here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add here a bar chart. You'll see on the right-hand side that it actually added in a new table, and it has this little icon on it. So all we're going to do is we're just going to add metrics to my y-axis. And what we're going to do is I'm also going to add just a rand. Actually, let's add that to my x-axis. Nope. Let's add it to the y-axis. All right. And you can see here as I change, it's going to show and change the title, which I personally love. We're going to show some of the metrics as soon as I click on it. This is what we're all accustomed to with a lot of configuration, but we can add on top of that now. And this is the cool part. So I'm going to go back to modeling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. I'm going to choose fields, but now I'm actually going to choose fields, not metrics. And we'll call these fields. And we'll see now. I'm just going to go here. I'm going to call it traffic channel. I'm going to say, let's say, actually, for the sake of email, we're not going to do email. Let's do country. Actually, let's do country here because I don't remember which one it is. That's okay. We'll do product. And now I'm adding different fields from different tables. Let's add that in. And what we're going to do is we're going to add this to the x-axis. Once it's added. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to add that to the x-axis. So you can see here that it's already defaulting on something, and generally the best options you want to do, you can only select one. So what we're going to do is single select. There's no, and I'll do the same one with my metrics. We'll make sure this is single select. So I'll say sales. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to choose category. And you see actually that now these two metrics, I have in a sense created multiple visuals all in one. If I chose country, it's actually, this is the right one. So country, traffic channel, or category, it's going to default and change the title. So this is literally consolidating 6 metrics where if you wanted to have the dynamic title, if you wanted to have all these switch statements, and consolidating the visuals that I can have. So allowing the user to really just choose, okay, let me see everything based on category. Let me see everything based on product. It can be from completely unrelated tables. So this is pretty intense in terms of what it can do. So I'm not going to do the matrix visualization as Kevin's asking. But actually, yeah, why don't we just do that? Why not? So I'm just going to create a matrix here. Let's just break everything.
All right, this is Tommy.
we
This
have
is Tommy going off the rails now. So this may or may not work. I know how this works. Someone says something like, "Oh yeah, I could do that. I'll build that, no problem." And we'll see how well this works. So we'll see. Oh, look at this.
Oh my God, that's insane! I didn't even crazy. So now it's actually all right. So this is blowing my mind. Blowing my mind. And you can see here, it's literally bringing each one in, and in the order that the parameters created. It does create a DAX metric here, so you can edit that, and you can edit the field parameter.
Pretty cool.
But generally, I mean, when you think about the ways we've tried to do this in the past, there were videos and, hey, how do you do this? The new feature, here's the 2 hours for you to spend wasting your time, where now we have this immediately available to us. So in a game changer point of view, this is absolutely a game changer. This is available in the May update, so we can get this at any time. So let's dive in real quick. We'll go back to our updates. There's been some major updates to goals. We can have custom statuses, and according to the road update, so we'll save that one. So according to the goals update and the roadmap, there's some really neat features coming with goals. For those who are into the highly statistical side, there's now error bars available. And there's a canvas zoom, both available in the service and in the desktop. This is great for one, to cause a lot of people headaches, where if I wanted to zoom in here and actually, in a sense, drag around to actually go row by row. This also helps consumers when they need to actually zoom in, depending if they're using a laptop. But me as an author can really go into the details and make sure things are consolidated. So really neat feature here as well. And then a few things with managing composite models, but I think the biggest thing is going to be what happens at build. We cannot wait for that. We'll see if it lives up to it. Finally, for those who are new, welcome. If you like this user group, but wish I spoke a lot less, there's a Power BI podcast out there with myself.
We have a thing for you.
We have a thing for you. It's kind of crappy. So, we have a Power BI podcast out there. We release twice a week, and we really talk about all aspects on, like, our user group tonight is about the how. How do you do something?
Yes.
Our podcast is very much like the why. Does it actually make sense? So, Mike, do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, definitely would. So the podcast is really around us having candid conversations. A lot of it's around career-based. We are just talking about just fun things around Power BI. And we find wonderful people like Bernat, who has this amazing skill around calculation groups. So it's just a cool community. We like hanging out. It's a nice an hour long. If you can't fall asleep at night and you just want to think about Power BI a little bit longer, it's a good hour of time for you to kind of work yourself out and go to sleep. So I think with that, we're pretty good.
Yeah, let's jump right in. So I am so excited to introduce Bernat Aguelo from Barcelona, who, just to give a brief introduction from myself personally, I've been getting into calculation groups over the last few months, probably a year. You've been writing your articles and just trying to wrap my head around it. And it was either Marco Russo or nobody else. And then Bernat seemed to just come on the scene, both with his GitHub repo and then incredible blogs that, one, were super helpful in the way that he explained it, but also all these use cases that made sense from a dumb person like myself and on how to actually apply it. So if you've been looking on how to use calculation groups, one, we'll watch tonight or today, and then two, subscribe to his blog and his GitHub repo because he has amazing resources. So we're so excited to have Bernat on here. Thanks for joining us at such a late time. I believe it's 10 p.m. your time.
Yep, 10 p.m. here, but so glad to be here, and I appreciate that you accommodated the time of your meeting so that we could make it happen. And so many things I want to talk about, so if there's nothing else,
I will be on the chat, so you guys just ask your questions on both chat, on if you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you are, and we'll kind of consolidate the questions for different points. But Bernat, at this point, it is yours to drive.
Yeah, the video all looks good. We got your screen share up and running, so you're good to go.
Good.
Have fun.
Yeah, let's do this. All right, so thank you for the introduction, and let's get into it. First of all, yeah, there's something I jumped over in previous presentation. So why calculation groups? Yeah, this is an important thing because people are like, come on, I already do my things in Power BI. And I mean, it's not even built there. So why should I care about calculation groups? But if you've done some work, you probably came out to have like several measures that look like this. And well, you might start thinking, well, many people start thinking there must be a better way to do this. Yeah? It doesn't really make sense that we need to create all the same calculations for each base measure, because here we're just showing one, but we could have like easily like 8 time intelligence calculations for each base measure. Yeah. So somebody said, okay, maybe we should get to like something like this and somehow manage to put different measures inside without creating so many extra measures. And that's what calculation groups come to solve. Yeah, basically that was the main use case. So that reduces the clutter. But the thing is that with implementation that Microsoft thought, actually you can do this, of course, because was the objective, but you can do so much more. So now that we know why they were created, what are calculation groups? Yeah, there's also something that people don't. Sometimes they just go over and they just focus on how you do things and stuff. But what are they? They are sets of DAX expressions that replace the value and format string of the measures present in their scope. Yeah, this maybe doesn't make sense now, but it will. So basically, they go in pairs, and each pair of DAX expressions, one for the value and one for the format, is called calculation item. Yeah. So far, so good. Now here, we have a card with a dummy measure, which is just blank, yeah? Nothing else. And this is not a field parameter. This is a calculation group right here, yeah? So we'll talk about the field parameters at some point, but this right now is a calculation group, and each of these things are calculation items. So when I select one of them, I get a value and a format string. When I select another one, I get another value, another format string. Yeah, because these expressions contained in these calculation items are replacing both the value and format string of my dummy measure, which is just blank, so to say. Yeah. All right. Well, show me the expressions. Where are they? Well, they are not there to be seen inside Power BI desktop. But we can see, I mean, we're using this column. This column comes from apparently a table, which is weird. Let's have a look at the table. Okay, the table doesn't show anything, does it? Yeah. So okay, it's just like the names of the values of these calculation items and some ordinal thing that we're not even using now. Okay. So what? How do we build them? I mean, if you cannot build them inside Power BI desktop, well, we need. I mean, there's several tools, but just focus on one of them, which is Tabular Editor, and you can do everything with just Tabular Editor too. Yeah. Of course, if you have the 3, you have many fancy things, and you can even use like DAX scripts to create them or modify them. Yeah, which is convenient sometimes. But we can handle that well with Tabular Editor too. So let's go and open it. This is the free version. And well, when we open Tabular Editor, which you should already be using anyway, we see our list of tables, and we can go and create a new calculation group. Yeah, so pretty straightforward. So calculation group, and we'll call it dynamic measure 2. Yeah, because we want to recreate the one that we had. Okay, but this is just a table. Yeah. Now for the column, yeah, it has a column. We see that it had 2 columns. The first one by default is called just name. That's a bad idea. We'll just call it dynamic measure 2 as well. So if you use it, it's easier to know where it's coming from. And now we have here like a small folder thing. It's just the calculation items. Here we'll create these pairs of expressions that I was talking about. So say new calculation item, and we give the name. This is the name that you saw over at Power BI Desktop. Yeah. So here, for instance, then we'll just try to recreate what we had. So like margin, and yeah, and this is the first one. And then here we need to write the expression. Yeah, this is the expression that will take over the measure in the context. So if we put the same dummy measure, well, something will come and replace it. And since we obviously want to show the margin in this one, we would go and say, so there's a margin. Yeah. Here at Tabular Editor 2, you don't get IntelliSense. You can do like drag and drop stuff if you want. Yeah. Then let's go very basic, and we'll do another one. New calculation item, and let's call this one a margin percent. I don't know if it, well, it does. I mean, I can put any name I want. Yeah. So in here we can do the other way around. Now margin percent. I just drag it and it works just fine. And you see I have a couple of question marks here. This is because it's not saved yet to the model. So we just click here on the floppy drive and the cube. And here at Power BI Desktop, we get this yellow ribbon, but it's fine. It just says that we need to recalculate. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, now we get here on the right side, we already see we have our new dynamic measure, and we have our column. And now here I prepare things a little bit. Here I have a chart that has a dummy measure, but since it's blank, it's not showing anything. And here, purposely, I'm using a measure, I mean, for my axis. Where's the title? So here I'm using a selected year measure. Yeah, so because I want to show you something. Now, here for the field, the slicer, I'll use the column from my brand new calculation group. And we get the 2 calculation items we just created. Yeah. So let's see. If I use the margin one, whoa, what happened with my title? Yeah, this is one thing I want you to see. And I want to turn on the data labels real quick. No, where is it? Here. Data labels, general, here, there. Okay. But here, if I put the other ones, oh, I'm getting, this is not right, yeah? I'm getting just ones, and it should be like a percentage. So there are 2 things, yeah? First thing, we're not using the correct formatting for our calculation items. Remember that we just defined here the expression for the value, but we didn't say anything about the format string, did we? No, we did not. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody would think, yeah, but with the field parameters. Come on, we're just learning the basics, okay? So, so for the margin, since we're using for the margin, let's say the best thing is to just go at the measure and say, okay. Okay, I'm using some euro thing. It's fine. I'll use the same one. So you can just say, this is the margin. Now this is the value expression. Okay, this is too small. Okay, this is the value expression. And now in the format string expression, which I can jump to through this drop down, I have nothing. But now I just go and say in double quotes, this is, oh wait, this is a bit more complicated. This is the expression, but since my format string has double quotes, I would go and double them. Okay, sorry, I didn't want to start with a difficult format string, but things happen. Yeah, this, when evaluated, would be just the string, and this would become just one single double quote. Okay. Now, for the margin percent, we'll do the same thing. We go to the format string expression, and now we would use like the 0%, but of course, needs to be a string, so we put it in double quotes. Yeah, we'll just go this way now. And since we modified it, we get the question mark, we save it back, and see what happens. Okay, now at least we have our margin. I mean, this is this is all 57 because it's rounded. I didn't put any decimals. Maybe I should. Let me just real quick. We can do a couple decimals. Okay. It doesn't feel so weird. Okay, now it's better. Okay, and if I go back to the margin, I see the different values as well. Okay, so far so good, but we still have this problem with the title. Yeah, we had the measure there and it's being replaced. Well, okay, that is okay. Yeah, the point is, this is something we need to be aware. So calculation item will replace all the measures under scope. Yeah, it will replace them. Now we'll see how can we make it that it looks like it doesn't replace them, but it will replace them. Yeah. So how can we do that? Well, luckily, Jeffrey Wang and I don't know his team thought of 4 special DAX functions that only make sense if you use them inside calculation groups. Yeah, I think you can type them in a measure, but it doesn't do anything, no error, but it doesn't make any sense nor anything useful. And so now we see. First, we're going to use one. They basically do what they say. So the selected measure is like the placeholder of the measure that you're about to replace. So if you want to use the measure you're about to replace in your expression, instead of putting the name of a measure, you'll use selected measure. But we'll see that in a second. And then these 2 are the important ones, because you might want to make sure which measure it is before doing something. Yeah, which is what we want to do. We want to replace the dummy one, but not the title one. So we can do it 2 ways. One is to check what the name of the measure we're about to replace. And the other one is already a measure which you fit it with a measure. And they say, like, is this one selected? And then you put the measure inside and say, like, yes or no. And then you do from there. And then the selected measure format string is just the format string of the measure you're about to replace. Yeah. And you'll see how we're going to use them as this one as well. So if we want to make our chart better, so here, okay, so here we have again the chart showing. We'll go here. And now, how can we make sure that only the dummy measure is replaced? Yeah. So as we just saw, I can use this fancy new function that if. Well, we start with an if. We want to do different things. Is selected measure, and then I put here the dummy one. Where is it? It's in we're using still this one, the dummy measure. Not here, but here. Yeah. If this is true, then please return the margin one. Otherwise, yeah, here what's the otherwise? The otherwise we need to say something, because otherwise it will blank. So the otherwise is leave whatever it was there before. So which I just mentioned, this is here, selected measure. Yeah, this will just leave whatever it was there. So it will look as though it did nothing, but it did. Yeah. So this would be our value expression. The thing is that you don't want to mess with the format strings of other things. Here, we don't get the problem because there's a title and it's treated as text anyway. But you might want to do that as well for the format string. Otherwise, you'll be messing the format strings of other number measures that you may have in your chart or in your scope. Yeah. So we can do this. I'll just do it for the value. But well, no, let's do it once so you see the difference. If I go to the format string expression, it would be the same idea. So if this is the measure, this is the format string. And if it's not, just leave whatever was there, but it's a format string now. So it's selected measure format string. Yeah. And we close this. This would be I think it's like good practice, I would say, in calculation groups. Always limit the scope of your calc groups. Otherwise, you might have problems later on. Yeah, and we can leave each of them, and then we can experience the difference. Yeah. So for the margin one, we fixed it. So we already see here that the margin one leaves the title perfectly. But if I change again to the margin %, I'm still breaking it. That's the reason, because it's not protected. I call it like this. Yeah. Very good. So somebody, will raising the hand, Bernat, but this is the field parameter. We're over that. No, we this is just the easiest example to show what a calculation group is. Okay. Now, let's continue. Now, time intelligence. This is where calculation groups shine. So, because if we go here in the sales, I have the old school, like, train load of measures. Yeah. And this is just a basic model, so it could be much, much worse. I could have display folders, but managing the measures is the same mess anyway. So here we have this is done with measures. Yeah, so I have sales amounts of the previous year, year over year, %. And we want to do that with a calculation group. So we need to create a calculation group. Let's do that again. So now, we'll go to tables, create new calculation group, and then it's called time intelligence 2. Yeah. Before, I'll call this also time intelligence 2. Oh no, come on. Now, and so new calculation item. One we'll call this is CY for current year. Current year is very easy because we don't want any transformation. So we'll call this just selected measure. Yeah. Here's the trick. Also, the format string, if you don't define it, by default, it will just keep whatever is there. I think it's better to explicitly say it, but yeah. And also here for making things easier, I'm not going to do the checking thing of what's the measure and so on, but you should do it as well. So just define the scope of the measures, and we'll see later how this can be done very efficiently. We're just getting into how to build stuff. Now, for the previous year, how would that go? So previous year. I mean, actually, if you can do a measure, you can do a calculation item. Very easy. So where is it? We're inside the sales one. We know that, this is how a previous year measure is built. So I'll just bring this one to my calculation item. Okay, maybe this a little bigger and this a little more. Oh, this is so large. Let me do a short line. Yeah, this is how you do things, right? You put a base measure and then you modify the filter context to move 1 year back in time. But of course, if we leave it as it is, it will always return us the same previous year from sales amount. We want to do it with any measure that is in the scope, in which case we're going to use selected measure here. Yeah. So far, so good. And if we want to go and want to go fancy, we can try one of these. No, but this is wrong. This is the year percent. I mean, it would be pretty much the same approach, okay? We'll just test that. This is how you would do that. We can, of course, use variables. You can do anything. Yeah, this is just plain text. Just you have this trick of calling what's the measure that is in the scope. And if you are building something serious, then you will do also what's the measure that you're about to replace. Yeah. So we have these two calculation items. And now we're going to play with the measure that we have. Yeah? We're not just replacing it. We want to play with it. So let's save this back to the model. And of course, we have to refresh. Every time you create a calculation group or a calculation item, you'll have to do this. And we should have it now somewhere. Here it is, time intelligence 2. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll drag the column into the columns field, and we get our current year and previous year. And the results are exactly the same as if we did with the measure. But, and this was true even before the field parameters, I can also change the base measure to do time intelligence on other measures. Yeah. Could this be a field parameter? Yes. Yes, because field parameters work at the visual level, so that just, I mean, the DAX expression would be as if really the measure was there. So it's even, in this sense, it's a bit more optimal, I would say, if this is the use case. Yeah, this is. Okay, so now you saw already a few examples, but let's recap. How do we use calculation groups? Yeah, you need to keep this in mind. Yeah? Calculation groups are like any other filter in Power BI. Yeah, so you can add them inside of a visual, which is fine. And but you can also add them. Oops. Okay, where is this? Okay, here in the filter panel, for example, if I'm this visual, you see I'm using the sales amount, but here I'm using the previous year calculation item, so I'm getting the value for the previous year, which is this one here. Okay. I could change it if I want to do that. So I could, if I go year over year, then I'm getting this one. Yeah. But yeah, just you can only select one. We'll see that. And the next one, and this is very interesting. You can also let me just make a bit bigger again. You can use them inside DAX expressions. Yeah, I was completely blown away when I learned that first. So let's have a look at this. We have this sales previous year using cal groups. How does this one look like? Oh no, sorry. This is okay. We'll talk about this as well. This you see this. I'm just using a calculate over sales amount, and here as a filter, I'm using a calculation item. Yeah, so this is the column of the calculation group, and this is the name of the calculation item, and here's how you apply that. So it's basically applying a filter as well, and this will effectively calculate the previous year for sales amount. Yeah, so this is pretty awesome as well. This is what really opens the whole thing. And now say, okay, but why would I do that? Yeah, maybe some people are thinking that. Well, here, oh, this is back. Sorry, I don't want this. The point is that the calculation item does not travel to the tooltip or drill through pages. And you might think like, what? It's much easier with an example. So you might be very happy with your calculation group. And here, for instance, I'm just building a sales amount. And with time intelligence, I'm showing like current year and previous year as two different in the legend part. So I have like two series. Yeah. And you say, okay, this is good, but I would like a tooltip that will show me these two values along with the year over year and the year over year percent. Yeah. Sounds good, right? And you go ahead and you set up a tooltip page. That is just like this. You get you put the same time intelligence calculation and the sales amount along with it, and then you configure it, and you're so happy. But then suddenly, when you prove it, like, whoa, what is going on here? Yeah, filter context. Yeah, here we're using the calculation group as part of the filter context. So this, of course, is troubling to the tooltip, and it's limiting the items that will be shown because this filter is applied, and you cannot really get rid of it easily. Yeah, once it's there. So also another thing that you should be aware about is that here, for instance, I want to have like the current year sales amount. But if somebody just goes and clicks on the previous year, you're getting actually the value for previous year. So this is also something that you should be aware. But you might think, okay, Bernat, but I want a solution. Yeah. So the solution is what I was just talking about, is using the calculation item inside of the DAX expression. Yeah. So here, instead of using the calculation item in the legend, what I'm doing is I'm just showing two measures in my chart. One is sales amount, and the other one is sales amount previous year using calgroups we just saw. Yeah, this one. Of course, this filter does not travel because it's inside the measure. Yeah, this is the beauty. So now when I go on top, I see all the values. Yeah, so this is pretty nice. Okay, let's go on. Now we get to the tricky part. So precedence, this is when we're using more than one calculation group. Yeah. So if you read SQL+VBA, which you should, you'll know that application of different calculation groups is in descending precedence order, and evaluation is as usual. And this is tricky because mostly when people talk about calculation groups, and even myself, I said it replaces the measure. Yeah. But it does so like in two steps. So the first one is the calculation item is applied. And then when all them are applied, the whole thing is evaluated following the DAX rules, so to say. Yeah. So let me explain. For the expression, if we're playing just with the time intelligence and the dynamic measure calculation group, it doesn't really make any difference if you apply them in different order. Yeah, so here I have precedence 10 for the previous year calc item. So my dummy will be replaced with something like this. Yeah, this will be my calculation. But this is wrong, right? This is not the previous year calc item. Oh, sorry, no. Oh, okay, I added that like a few minutes before. This is year over year %. Yeah, this is current year, this is previous year, and this is dividing one for the other. Okay, sorry about this. So this is for the value. And then the format string, it's not really overlapping the null formal string with the 0%. It's just saying, hey, this format string will have to become 0%. Yeah. Okay. This is the top priority, the top precedence. And then the later one, it's applied later, but it's applied at the measure level. Yeah. So it will analyze this thing and say, okay, this is a measure, so I'll go and replace this with my expression, sales amount. Yeah. But here I'm just replacing it, but this is more like what is happening. So here, the second step will say, okay, this original format string should become the format string of the sales amount. Yeah, but this is kind of nested inside the first application. So it really doesn't really matter what happens here because anyway, this is going to become like 0%. Yeah, so it will become like a percentage format. Yeah. Okay, bear with me a little longer. So this is to say that if we do, so application evaluation, not the same thing. Yeah, this is when applied, then it's evaluated and it would go like because if I first replace that with 0%, then would come the other one, would replace it with this one, and then suddenly the lower precedence is it's going to win, and it's not. Yeah, so higher precedence, if you're just like replacing one thing by the other, the highest precedence will be the one at the end here. Yeah, because application and evaluation is not the same thing. Now, what happens if we do it the other way around? We start like this and say, okay, this should be like a currency. And then when we apply the year over year calc item, sorry about that. We're going to just take the sales amount and wrap it and use it inside our calculation item expression. this was selected measures, then we just take this one here, and this is fine. You see, there's no difference, but here it's a different story. Yeah, because now our format string for this calc item will be inside here, and then maybe it's going to be percent here, but then at the end it's going to be dollar, just currency. Yeah, so format strings are tricky because it's a bit more difficult to imagine. Yeah, so after lots of tiers, this is the way I think about it that makes sense for me. Yeah, so even though the application happens in a descending number of precedents, at the end you get something like this. Yeah, you imagine like calculate one inside the other, and the farthest one are the highest precedence items, and then you go inside. So this helps make sense what is going on. And if any of my explanation makes sense, you surely can answer now. So if I put time intelligence here and dynamic measure here, or I do it the other way around, I want to get the correct formatting for year-over-year percent. Yeah, so if I select sales amount, will I see a percentage here? I think I have like B now set up. Yeah, think inside of your heart. Oh, it was wrong. Yeah, so because this is what we just said. Here, think about the format string. Yeah, because we saw the other one doesn't really matter. Format string is a null here. Then the time intelligence, oh, this should be 0% because it's a year-over-year percentage. But then comes the dynamic measures like, you know what, this is a sales amount, so this should be currency. And it's a disaster. Yeah. So we go real quick and we look for this precedence thing, and we have your time intelligence. Here we have precedence here, you see it. The second thing is 2 for this one. And the dynamic measure, let me find it. And it is 4, yeah? So the dynamic measure is higher. This is so large. Yeah? Can you see better now? Yeah, calculation percentage 4. So if I don't know, I'll just put something very high. So I put time intelligence now on top. And now I'm getting the correct percentage. Yeah, because now I'm in this case. Okay. But I'm gonna move it back because I want to show you something. Oh, wait, I have to say back. Yeah. It's like, is there any way I can override this precedence? I don't know, maybe sometimes you want to do that. Well, you can override that if you apply the items inside of a measure. Yeah, which took me some work to do. Here, you're not seeing the calculation item anymore. It's just a column with names. There's no calculation behind that. And here I have this is the regular time intelligence one, yeah? But what I'm doing now is, wait, here, dynamic with DAX. Let me show you this one. Dynamic with DAX. So here I'm just getting the selected value of this names column. Yeah, remember this is no calculation item, and say, okay, which one did you select? And then I'm applying the calculation item as a filter inside of the DAX expression. Yeah, I'm using calculate and the dynamic measure and then a result. So I'm applying it inside, and now, even though the precedent is as it was, I get the percent here, which is okay. This is good, but now, of course, we are. This is a measure, yeah. So it's measures do not have dynamic format string; they have just static ones, yeah. So if I want to see, for instance, my margin percent, here you see I don't get the percent here. Yeah, because my measure, my measure, where is it? Dynamic with DAX, it has just a general format string. Yeah, it's not a percent. If it was a percent, then I would break the other ones. I have to choose. Yeah, so, well, it's so that you know, I want just to remember one thing from this. What happens inside the measure stays inside of the measure, okay? So that is what you should just remember from this discussion. Okay. Normally, you don't have to deal in this sort of things. Just think a logical layering of calculation groups, and that's enough. So rules and warnings when using calculation groups. There's only one calculation item of the same calculation group can be active in the same evaluation context, or none is applied. That means if I select sales amount, we saw that this works wonderful. But if I select two of them, then none is applied and I get back to my original dummy measure. Yeah. So this makes sense, right? So, but just that so you know. Sometimes if you start applying things at the page level for modifying the model or stuff like this, maybe you can run into this without really being aware of it. Now, okay, let me close this one. I think this is the scroll thing. Okay, this should not be an issue, especially if you listen to Tommy's and Mike's podcast, but you cannot use implicit measures. Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is, if you already have some, and when you create a calculation group, it's not that they're going to disappear, but there's a big but in it. First, calculation groups are not applied on them. And second, you cannot create new ones. So if you make a mistake and you put it out, you cannot put it back in. So as a proof, here, if I go, for instance, to the sales table, I should have, where is it? Sales quantity, for instance, should be a number. And, oh, sorry. Okay, it's a number. But if I try to drag it into the here, you see, nothing is happening anymore. And you also will see that all those summarizing symbol things also disappear from the columns. Okay. And then now, next thing. Here. Last but not least, calculation groups work only on measures, cannot be used on variables or expressions. Yeah, when I first learned a calculation group, I was like, wow, this is like a DAX function that I can create. And then I realized that I was trying to use that on a variable, even if it's just like selected measure plus 3, you cannot put a variable and just feed it into a calculation group. It will not work. So to make my case more clear, so let's see, wrong. This is the one. You see here, here I'm trying to apply the calculation item on expression. Yeah, this is not going to work. Yeah, nothing will happen. It will just evaluate this. Okay. However, if you use the other one, so sales previous year, using groups, this will work. Yeah. Here you might be wondering, why do I have like duplicated things? This is something also related to calculation groups. I haven't talked about that. And it will create them, the format strings, as if they were hidden measures. And you can use them and see what the calculation, what the measure is. So it really treats them like this way. But if you just hide them, it's nothing is wrong. Okay. So yeah, remember, apply on measures. Now, best practice when using calculation groups. Also, as I just mentioned, apply calculation to single measures, not multi-measure expressions. So here, for instance, I have the sales amount, I have the average daily sales, and here I might be trying the average. I want to do this one. Let's have a look first. Average daily sales. This is just like sales amount divided by count rows. Like, okay, I have this. And then I say, okay, I'm going to just, get the same expression and apply my filter. Well, this is not right, because the calculation item will be applied only at the measure level. So this is the same as I was saying as I did the, I was doing the year to date only, the sales amount, while count rows will just divide by the rows of that month. And of course, this is wrong. Yeah, you see here, my average daily sales just go up when I reach December, because I'm dividing just by 30 and I'm getting the sales for the whole year. This is very wrong. However, if average daily sales. The right one is just use the measure that you already created and apply the filter. Yeah, this will work fine. Next thing, this I wasn't aware of this till very recently. Yeah, there is, first of all, I wasn't aware this existed. There's this discourage direct query connections. This is a property that you can check, and you should do that for your calculation groups Power BI data sets. Yeah, so you have your beautiful data set, you put a calculation group, they say, okay, somebody wants to use it, I'm fine with it. No, you shouldn't. Because, and this is the reason, calculation items are not applied to local subqueries, so it's dangerous. Yeah, so somebody from the local data set generates some measures like, oh, I'm going to use that calculation group from the remote model, and no, not a good idea. Yeah, of course, if you are sure that all the people that are going to do direct query there know what they're doing and know that they cannot apply things like this, you can leave it unchecked. But if you're not sure, just check this one. This is not to say that you cannot do thin reports on Power BI datasets with calculation groups. These are perfectly fine. It's just about direct query. Okay. Very good. Why did I do that? Okay. Oh, did I oh, yes. Yes, very good. And why does it go? Continue. Bookmark. Oh, because it's a group now or what? Yeah. I'm really a noob on this. Okay. Well, we're almost over. Like, is this the end now? No, it's not the end. Yeah. But I told you we're just getting started. Because, I mean, you might have think of it, but you saw that we need to make sure of the measures that we're about to replace. At the same time, we also have to take care of the format shrinks. I mean, they save us work, but at the same time, they also create some work for us to do. And very repetitive because, for instance, time intelligence, if you're not into a weird calendar, they are the same for everyone. So maybe there's a better way to do things, right? So here, you don't need to be a developer to benefit from software, right? So you can also benefit from scripts. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything that needs to be clarified before I jump into that. I mean, we're not going to get deep into the scripts.
We are good, actually. There's we've been answering questions that have been coming along. I think the one of the earlier questions was around what is the difference between the field parameter and a calculation group. And I think I explained it right in the chat here, but I'll give you my definition and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I accidentally screwed this up. So my thought was, and my understanding is a field parameter is a visual only level item, right? It is something that is specific to just the visuals. And when you use other external tools, if I wanted to use a field parameter like Excel, analyze an Excel or an XMLA endpoint, the field parameters would not be exposed to the other tools. It's only in Power BI Desktop. It's only a visual level calculation. On the other side, though, calculation groups are part of the data model. It's part of the structure of the model that's going on. So in the same way you built the matrix there that had the rows and column context of the calculation group, you could reuse that in a pivot table inside Excel. So that is a model-based calculation that can be reused other places, correct?
Well, I mean, today I think it is like you said, but I mean, the field parameter, it is a table as well in the model. So the thing is that it's now not working, but I don't know if they're going to fix that.
Gotcha. Okay.
The big difference is that the query that is sent to the
to the engine at the back end.
To the engine are different. So when you're using the field parameter, it's really as if the measure was right there.
Made inside the visual,
Yeah. So well, the other one, I mean, it takes all these previous steps before, and and especially if we get some time, we show some examples, and I was mentioning about the filter context. So calculation groups are filters.
Yeah.
So in that sense, that has implications on the things that you can do or cannot do with it.
That makes sense.
So yeah, there's still different things. Some use cases you can do both. This is like DAX and M, right? So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but they have different benefits as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, now I'll just jump for my convenience real quick to my own blog. So because here I have this article where you can get scripts that will make your life much, much easier when you're using calculation groups. Because most of the time you'll be using this dynamic measure, or maybe, I don't know. Yeah, but maybe for fancy things, you will still use this one. And the time intelligence calculation group, I think it's still here to stay. I don't know what will be presented next week. Maybe this will also be gone. Who knows? But let's have a look. So what I'll do right now, I'm going to close this one. And I'll open another one, just very empty. So and meanwhile, we're just gonna jump here. I have this script.
As you're getting set up there, keep going. I'm just going to let you know. For everyone who's looking to follow along, in the chat window, I've also provided the link specifically to this blog, the one-click calculation group for your tool belt. So this is a calculation group that Bernat has created. It makes it easier, and so you use this with an external tool, and it basically builds a lot of the principles that you were talking about today automatically. And I gotta admit, it was really good. I used it for myself a couple days ago. Thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm so happy he's speaking at our group, because it saved me a lot of just trying to figure things out on my own, because I'd have to do this myself. I'd have to figure out what's going on here. So it's very, very helpful script. So I would definitely recommend getting started with this, and this part of the demo here is going to, I think, be very helpful here.
Yeah, remember, you might be scared of the scripts. Don't. It's very easy. I'm not gonna even go to a line. Yeah, so I just clicked here. This is a new version. The initial version of the script is from Johnny Winter, and most of it's still from him. I just made some modifications, maybe ahead of the field parameters thing, because now this will create like 3 dummy measures for us. So it allows you to build some more complex use cases. And it works like this. So I just copied the code. And then we come here, okay, and we go into the advanced scripting tab, and we paste it, okay? Now, this script has been built in a way that you can even save it as a custom action, yeah? So you don't need to change any of the code inside. And this needs to work on a measure, okay? And let's call like a new dynamic, because I have already like several dynamic. Okay. And here's how it works. You select the measures and you run it if you have it. But if you just did what I did to save it as a custom action, you don't even have to, you don't need to have the code here. Anytime you just right click, custom actions, and I would run my new dynamic. Okay. We'll do this now. And it will ask you a few questions. So what's the name of the calculation group you want to build? Dynamic measure is fine. This is the column, so the same name. The measure, we'll call it just dummy. And boom, we get a beautiful calculation group. And this time it has like 3 dummy measures, yeah? One is a CF. This is already for conditional formatting use cases. And the dummy 2 is in case you need to play around with 2 measures simultaneously. And it is all set up for you. So you see the code already checks that you're about to replace one of these 3 measures, none other. And it does, of course, for both sides. And it picks up the format string that you had already defined on your measures. Yeah. Only thing is that you should be, it's better to have the format strings set up beforehand. But the good thing about this version of the script is that like, oh no, I don't want euros. This was dollars or whatever. And then you go here and say, oh, well, this is terrible. I have to redo my calculation item and I don't want to do this. So you just change it and for sales amount, and then you can just rerun it. Yeah. And it's not going to ask you anything because already knows, oh, there is it. Because if I now go into the sales amount and I check what's the format string expression, it's already updated. But it didn't even ask me what's the name or anything because we already have a dynamic measure calculation group, which could have any name. Yeah, it will pick up it from some other place. So you can really just name it whatever you want, or add new measures. Yeah, if for some reason I had forgotten to add the margin one, you can just go ahead and add it, and boom, it's there. Okay. So, and then you save it, and of course it works just as fine. So here we refresh, and where is it? Y-axis. Now we have sales amount, but we could use like the dummy one, and of course we need to use our column, and we have. Oops, we have this, and where are the data labels? So with the correct format strings, okay? But this is the easy one. Now let's go to the other one. The other one, it's even, well, I don't know, it's different. This is the link. We just go there, we copy, it's exactly the same procedure. And now we go to advanced scripting, we can get rid of this. Paste this one. Also, we can just we need to set a new. I'll just give it another name. Yeah, Time Intel Chicago. Okay, it also works on a measure. Say okay. So now here. Here in Tabular Editor 2, you have one limitation is you can only pick up measures from one table. Yeah, if I try to select, I just can't really, but it's no big deal. We're going to select the 4 base measures, and we're going to launch this Time Intel Chicago. Yeah. So again, what's the name of the calculation group? Time Intelligence, the column, and now here it says provide a name for the vector measure table. Yeah. Since this calculation group will have to work in, we don't know how many measures, instead of hard coding them inside the calculation items, it will create a table with the names of the calculation, with the name of the measures that we want to work on, and so that we don't have to hard code them inside the calculation items. Yeah. Okay. Very good. This is a measure. And now it gets even fancier. Like, okay, what's your fact table? It's like, oh, well, sales table. Yeah. Okay, and what's your the main date column of your table? This is order date. Where's your date table? This is the date table. What's the date column? This is the date column of my date table. And that's the year column. This is because it already has built in some dynamic label thing, so it needs to know to put the label on year over year. What's actually, and here we get the Time Intelligence. You look how many calculation items it has, like a lot. And we get also the Time Intelligence affected measure. Yeah, here you see it's just a DAX table with the names. And then I just saw the comment from Johnny. And then here you see I have all this DAX, which is wow, this is very elaborate, Bernat. You know a lot of DAX. No, I know how to copy. Yeah, I went over to daxpatterns.com and picked the definitions from there. So I was on the safe side of things. So all the year to date and so on, you see it has like some special things. So for previous year, it's not just the regular calculate and so on. It has like this thing here, and there's like a new column on the date table and so on. So that, for instance, you don't get like previous year value for years in the future. You don't want that, right? So it takes care of all these small caveats. Yeah, and it's beautiful. So now you can save this back. But one thing is that this will not work on our beautiful chart because we're using the dummy measure. Yeah. And we didn't select the dummy measure for our Time Intelligence. Yeah, if I put this here and I say, okay, show me previous year, nothing changes, right? Now, but here, if I go into the Time Intelligence, here I can go and select and add my dummy measure, and I should probably add the other two as well if I'm on a more complex use case. And now I should be getting different values. Yes, I am. Yeah. So this is so convenient because here you see I'm using a selected measure name in values of this table. So you just add the name once in one place and boom, you get the nice behavior. Because otherwise, what's the alternative? You would have to go through all these expressions. So I don't know how many are there, but multiply by 2 to add the measure at each of these DAX expressions, which is a pain. Okay, I think I'm very bad with time already. Yeah. So
no, you're good.
good?
I was this, and this is the script that I used to
Yeah.
figure out how to start with calculation groups. And I'm very happy to see you demo this, and it made a lot more sense now. Exactly when you were showing, like, you know, this is the stuff that makes things easier to consume because you've already kind of gone through the mental effort of thinking through, like, okay, how do I limit the number of measures that I want you to use? You know, it's going to use it on every measure all across the model. And when I was doing this to begin with, I was just using just selected measure, and that was it. And so it was whatever measure I threw at it, I was like, great. But to your point here, I think this is a great further design requirement here is making sure that you adjust what is actually supposed to be used inside the measures. Like, we, as a designer of the model, right? Yeah. We know what we want you to use and what we don't want you to use. And I think this is a great way of protecting against that. So really good demo, very solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So any more demo things from your side? Or are we, you're
well, I
mean, the end of it.
This is the end of the theory. Then of course, maybe for the completeness, we can show some example that you cannot do with a field parameter.
Love it. Let's do that.
Love it.
Yeah.
I think we need to put it in this place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Cool.
Let me check this one. This one, I don't know if she's here. So for Dan Mesner, he said, "Okay, I want to show the description of the measure with a tooltip," which is like, wow, because if you think of it, we always have all this that we should be, having a good model with metadata, but then we're depriving the consumer of the report of all this valuable information of what is this that's being shown. And here you see, this is the description for margin sales amount. This description is exactly the one that I have for the measure. Yeah, and to prove it, I'll go to the model side, and where is it? Margin, was it? There it is. Yeah, this is the same thing. To achieve this, okay, there is a few things that you have to do, but one of them is getting a table called measure to description. No, this is not the one. No, sorry. Model measures. Yeah, you can get this with like a DMV. You publish the service, you access it through the XML endpoint, and then or you just create a table. Okay, this is not really the point of this table. But then with the calculation group, what I did is, the point is, if you really use a measure, there's no way to do that. But since I'm using a dynamic measure calculation group here as a column, the measure name is part of the filter context. And this is something I can check from my DAX expression. Yeah. Even after, applying the calculation groups and so on. So this is something that you will not be able to do with a field parameter. Yeah. And something that would be also easier, because for conditional parameters, I'm not sure how would that work with field parameters. I don't know how calculate. I haven't dealt yet with conditional format and field parameters. Does it show up there or something? Somebody can do a demo on that. Here, what I have is a KPI card. And And a guy from the PUC Barcelona said, I want to show the current year value here and the previous year value as a goal. Yeah. And then it's like, how can I do this? Yeah. And then I created at the end, we have the 3 levels. We have the dynamic measure, the time intelligence, and then we have the third one. But the thing is that we use 2 different dummy measures. Yeah, the dummy 1 and the dummy 2. And we are using, you see, one is the value and the other one is the trend, which is actually like the target one. So what I do here at I create one calculation group on top of that and say, because this applies to both, so they are both margin percent, they're replaced over the margin percent. Then I'm not applying any item directly from the time intelligence one, but I'm adding through another calculation group, the KPI comparison. Let me show this real quick. I have to connect to the new one. Where is it? Dynamic KPI cart. Table here. Said you want to do year to date versus previous year to date. And okay, well, I'll do some fancy things here to even be able to reuse the same expression, because it gets the calculation item named from the name of the calculation item. And see, okay, it kind of breaks this down. It's like, okay, I need to get the calculation item YTD and the PYTD. And then you see calculation item applies it here. Yeah, say if you find the dummy measure, do calculate of the selected measure using this calculation item. But if you find dummy 2, apply this other calculation item. And if you find something else, then don't do anything, yeah, as usual. So you can build stuff like this. And with the script that you saw, we already have these 2 dummy measures built in. And it makes it easier to develop use cases like this one. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The applications are much
Mm-hmm.
broader. So you can do anything. As long as it's a measure, you can do anything. So think about conditional formatting. Yeah, if you're using a hex code, hexadecimal code in a measure, you can also take that with a calculation group and break it in parts and do all sorts of crazy things.
That's really crazy. It's pretty impressive how much you can take those calculation groups and reuse them over and over again. And I think that was one of my aha moments here. There was you sort of demo a portion here where you were taking a calculation, you were sticking it on a page, and then in the filter pane, you were adding, okay, pick this time intelligent item. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. It's actually allowing you to like selectively pick the time comparison for things, because that makes it a lot easier there too.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're looking at like, oh, look at
oh
this.
my
This is
God!
cool.
Oh wow!
And it's transparent as well, of course.
Get out of
That's
here.
crazy cool.
You can do that. I mean, I haven't used that ever in production, because I mean, when would you do that? But you can, which is cool.
Yeah, this visual looks good, but it's not transparent enough. I wish this visual had like, you know. I'm gonna smack the guy who has that report requirement. Yeah, you know, I need to be able to change the transparency on.
No, I'm gonna hire Bernat.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly.
Bernat, if you don't mind, yeah.
If you want to model something which you cannot model, like if you have a key account manager that needs to filter both like product and store, you cannot do that with relationship, but you can do like a treat as that is like flowing around all the time.
Oh, interesting.
And then you're filtering. You see, I want to filter this way, and now it's working.
Wait. Do that again. So you're going to here. You've disabled. So this is using calculation groups.
So this is the CAM table. Yeah. So I want the CAM one is only for Contoso and Europe. Okay.
Yep.
But of course I cannot put 2 relations here.
Correct. Yeah.
Because there was a filter here. So, and of course, I don't have relations, so I see CAM1 like a Cartesian product with all the possibilities. Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
But when I enable this calculation group, it will wrap all my measures with a treat as that will say that this manufacturer is actually coming from the product table, and this content is actually coming from the store table, and then everybody's fine and it works.
That's crazy. Is this blogged too? Do you have a blog on this one as well?
Yeah, it is.
I did not catch this one. I didn't understand. Maybe I read it and didn't understand this one fully. But wow, this is really neat.
It's pretty old. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's the old one, Michael. You didn't read the first one. I'm only reading the new stuff. Dynamic KPIs. I was too enamored by your icon and the little eyeball. See there?
There's too much content.
You pulled me in with the smiley face there too early. That's awesome. Wow, that's so. And there's a similar fashion, like when you're using like row level security, there's a similar way that you can do that, where you can apply a role, and you can apply a role to multiple tables without actually having relationships on them. So this is kind of like a similar area where you're able to pick up some sort of filter context and project the filter context to multiple tables for a specific reason. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of this as being even a use case. That's crazy.
Yeah. This is much more as what you can do with where is it? This one. Filtering the possible with calculation groups. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go snag that link there for that one, and I will add it to the chat window, because I've been as you've been going through these demos, I've been trying to add the links to each of the blog articles if people want to read up a bit more on the details there.
Bernat, if you don't mind, I have a few hot fire questions for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just your experience using calculation groups. How do you start getting a grasp on precedence? Because I feel like once you get over that hurdle, a lot of this becomes more possible. So what was that? Yeah.
A lot of head banging, I would say. I don't know. Because I mean, for a long period of time, I thought of them like in the opposite. I mean, there's quite a few things that I don't get sometimes, like what is actually going on. So I try to stay out of these situations, and that's when I came out with this, this nested thing. This mostly helps me, and I try to keep things simple. This is also a best practice, like don't do crazy stuff.
Right.
And from there, I mean, you think of it, and almost all the problems are solved with the calculation group, right?
So, and I guess that leads the other question that kind of on that is, was it a lot of reading, or was it really just a lot of dummy data and just experimenting and trying things out?
Actually, no. I was lucky enough to get like real use cases for most. This one was for real. I mean, I got that request on a custom, and I was like, oh my god. And it's like, wow, calculation groups. And like, I got it. Yeah, something like this.
You are one sick and twisted man that you say you see this problem and you immediately think, oh yeah, I can do this in calculation groups.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like a joke really on that. Like I call like I have a sure, it's a calculation group, right? They're like yes. So what?
Amazing. That's cool.
Sorry, just a few more not Spitfire, but hot shots, whatever they call them. They're quick answers. Lightning round.
Here we go.
So what about how many hours do you think you put in until you felt super comfortable with precedence and calculation groups? Like how much time was it? Was it that 1,000-hour mark? Was it 10 years ago?
I have no idea, because I keep thinking about it. So where do you put the line? If you're doing the dishes and thinking calculation groups, does it count?
See, this is the problem here. You need to stop. You need to let your mind rest a little bit. Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, it's just beyond me. I mean, it's like, come on, Bernat, get a life, right? But this is my life now.
And awesome. Johnny kind of asked this too, and I know we're near time.
Johnny, great Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny. For a lot of users who are getting started, obviously the scripts are incredible, but if someone says, I want to not just use them, but be comfortable with them, would you recommend more using the scripts initially and then kind of like reverse engineering, or trying to create them themselves?
Ooh, good question. I would recommend first to move the development over Visual Studio. First thing. Yeah, so watch the session with Reed Heavens. I did the settings on there. And I mean, it's like night and day. Trying to do scripts on Tabular Editor, I think it's a nightmare. I mean, I did the one on calculation and time intelligence like this way, and it was a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh my God, this is almost like Visual Basic for application. I mean, because it's just goes and it even suggests the next thing that you want to see. So really, go there and have a look. And I mean,
So did I hear that correctly? You said you're doing, when you're writing the C# scripts for Tabular Editor, you're doing
Yeah.
that in Visual Studio Code? Is that what you're doing that in?
no, I do in the regular Visual Studio.
Oh,
but
regular Visual Studio.
people
Oh,
are doing
man.
that in Visual Studio Code as well.
You were a brave man,
Well,
because I don't.
no,
I only like
yeah.
Visual Studio Code.
So I was messaging Bernat, and we need to create a Visual Studio extension, Studio
yeah,
Code extension
anytime.
Yeah.
that would do IntelliSense for C scripts for Tabular
That's what I
Editor.
need. Yeah, I
Yeah.
need that for Studio Code, because then I can just,
Yeah.
it auto IntelliSenses me what I need to know.
So
Mhm.
yeah, everyone who's listening, everyone message Bernard so he can get on this, because I
Exactly.
can't help it all.
Start a
But
GoFundMe page
if
for.
you want a VS Code extension that help you write C scripts for Tabular Editor.
I love it.
But really, I mean, yeah, because I was setting like a custom DLL for
Mhm.
scripts. This is my other thing. I'm calculation scripts and C# scripts, because
Mm.
there is some code that you say, I'm going to use that like a lot. I want to put it somewhere. And you can create a custom DLL, but it is quite a pain. It's not really smooth yet.
But it's
If
possible.
it is possible, yeah. But then what happens right now is that if you publish the DLL and then you use it in a script, which is already possible, then that file becomes locked, and you cannot republish the DLL until you close the tabular editor. It's like, whatever. And it's not
Oh.
Wow.
and it's not guaranteed to work both in TL2 and TL3. And also it creates like a barrier to using the scripts, because now it's like just copy paste and click play. And that would require another step of go download my DLL, and maybe you have to update it, and I don't know. And so that's why I stopped there. And also I don't have much use cases enough to justify the effort. But
Right.
I was glad to see it was possible. I was like, okay, and now it's
Yeah.
resting there. It probably is in the roadmap. So at some point there will be a way to store classes inside Tabular Editor, and that day will be beautiful.
Awesome. Cool.
Well,
Well, with that, I think we've exhausted all of our questions. Any other questions, Tommy, that you see that would be relevant?
no, I
All
think
right.
that's pretty good. There's a few knickknacks like what can you other use cases, like can you do two line chart secondary axis? Like, can I have the same calculation item with one that's on the main axis and the other that's on the secondary?
No, you need to be always remember, calculation grids work on measures. They are not field parameters. Maybe field parameters can do that for you, but
Mhm.
the calculation grids will always work only on
Okay.
measures. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in order to do that, you'd have to do what you were showing earlier, where you're taking a specific another measure and calculating, using the calculation group itself, calculate the dummy
Yeah,
measure.
It wouldn't be worth the
for
effort.
current year.
it
Well, I mean, you
wouldn't
could
be,
do
yeah.
it, but you have to write a second measure for it, I guess.
Yeah.
Has to be explicitly
you
called
do
out.
that. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
or you have the dummy one, dummy two, and then you can have
Yeah, you
one
could
just
switch
for
between the
both.
two. Hmm.
Or,
I
yeah,
like
both.
it. Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate your time. It was a super good session. I learned a lot. This is the one I'm very jealous, because I can learn more by hosting these things. And you taught me a lot of good things and some stuff towards the end here I did not even know you could do. So I'm very happy to have you on today. Thank you so much for your time. Go to bed. Take it easy.
Yeah.
The presentation is over now. And with that, any other final notes, Tommy, before we wrap?
Just the last housekeeping item for Chicago. If you are in Chicago and you know a place that would be willing to host
Oh yeah.
downtown, please let me know. Message me on LinkedIn. We're trying to get back to on site, and we'll also keep the virtual as well. That's the only housekeeping item I have. But Bernat, thank you so much for joining us. This
Yes,
was
really
absolutely
appreciate it.
amazing. Please
Super
follow
fun.
him on GitHub and his blog and Twitter and all the whole things.
Yeah.
Here's his
Looking
LinkedIn
forward.
page, just in case you haven't seen it yet. So I'll put the LinkedIn page there in the chat window. So if you haven't seen him, go follow him on LinkedIn. Go reach out. Ask him many more hard questions. Apparently, he thinks about this all the time. Dreaming, sleeping, washing dishes, walking around.
Yeah.
Calculation groups are on the mind. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Cheers,
Yeah,
everyone.
anytime. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.